I'd like to thank the Innovation Oz team for bringing us together today, for creating a space where we can have really great conversations about capability. CSIRO is a proud contributor to 4 of the capability papers that were released today, and also a sponsor of the event. We think it's really important that we talk about Australia's future, that we plan for it, and we bring together the best minds in Australia to have those conversations. It's always timely to talk about capability and what we need, and one of the most exciting projects that I get to work on at CSIRO at the moment is planning for our future capability. We need as a nation, thank you very much, Corey, to be continuously investing in people, in the cultures and the environment in which innovation will thrive. We know it is not just about the people, but about the places in which they work and how they are given the freedom to operate. Australia needs to be globally competitive economically. We want to be scientifically collaborative on the scientific front. But the third race that we're also trying to run at the moment is one which is around our planet, keeping up with it, keeping ahead of it, and driving forward some innovation which will help Australia in particular through some of our climate change crises. As we look a handful of weeks out from the start of summer, and as I flew in yesterday looking at the green turning to brown, CSIRO is about to, is in the middle of designing one of our sites in Western Sydney, one of the hottest spots over the past few months, with it, even in spring, temperatures of 35 degrees. And so we need our science to keep up with where climate change is going, not just to tackle it, but to also deal with the reality of where we are. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about a new tool that the New South Wales Fire Service will have in their armoury this year as they tackle bushfires. So this year we've got a new AI modelling platform which combines years of knowledge and understanding of how bushfires operate with the latest cutting-edge AI to allow real-time monitoring of fires in the field, to allow redeployment of trucks, of people, of resources, and for planning. And so the system uses the AI and the data from CSIRO's Canberra Fire Lab close by to us here in Black Mountain to predict the spread of the bushfires and then to automatically detect the lives, properties that may stand in fire's destructive paths. The Athena system is particularly powerful in that it can predict what the bushfire might do. So it uses the information from the bomb, it looks at the terrain, it looks at the ignition point of the fire, and will allow predictive modelling of where this is going next, which will allow the fire service in real time to really plan. And so, with the predictions at hand, then the firefighters can optimise where these resources go, where they need people to remove, and where they can deploy what can be at sometimes scarce capabilities and capacities within these people. They will also know how to keep their people safe and to keep the rest of us safe. So the prediction and the models, as I said, are a combination of 2 really great things. Cutting edge AI, which is allowing us to take all of the knowledge that we've been gleaning at CSIRO and with our partners over almost 70 years and bring that to the forefront in a tool which helps on a daily basis. And so we've got a facility down the road which has a 29-metre tunnel and a 2-ton wind turbine, which we've been using to burn a range of materials in a range of conditions to really truly understand how fire moves, how different environments impact how a fire will move. And then we can relay that with all of the other data that comes together to really allow us to predict where this is going. So once used for mocking up fires to understand them, then used as a theoretical way of, then used to look at burning and burn-offs, to do those in a careful way. We've now moved that forward into something which is used in real time to map live bushfires. And I tell the story because not only is it a great tool and we need it moving forward, but really it articulates how the science and capability that CSIRO houses and our partners house can come together to deliver something that 10, 15 years ago was not even thought about. Maps and paper were used to define these fire boundaries. And so by bringing together the capability and by CSIRO housing that capability and continuing to invest in the various new components that come together in all of those science areas, we can then bring together the tools that deliver it forward year after year and fire season after fire season. So the role of CSIRO, when Billy Hughes created CSIRO in 1916, he called for a national science agency, and this was a new quote for me this week, to make the desert bloom like a rose. And so at the time, there was a really strong focus for Australia on one of the big challenges we were first asked to do was to eradicate the prickly pear. And so we worked in collaboration with our state and state partners and other collaborators to do that. And the science which we used at the time was very different to the science that we would use now when we have another outbreak. But the science that we invested in then has evolved and continued to evolve to now support what is Australia's cotton industry. And so we have delivered the highest yielding cotton anywhere globally, delivered, grown here in Australia, and then delivered through CSIRO IP. And so from those little things, the big things have grown. The focus for CSIRO is investing in science that's going to deliver impact to the nation. So very much on that applied scale. And as you know, we have science across the spectrum. So about 15 months ago, I hung up my my PhD in AI. I didn't know that I was one of 10,000 people. I know lots. I know hundreds of people with PhDs in AI, but maybe I'm just moving in the right circles. And so I decided that my impact that I could deliver in health tech had run its course, and I wanted to see if I could deliver and enable impact across CSIRO and at a different level. So I've jumped across and joined the Office of the Chief Scientist as the Deputy Chief Scientist. And now what I get to do is work on big programs that allow CSIRO to make investment decisions, to plan for our future, to plan for our people, to plan our facilities, and to plan the impact that we will drive forward with into the future. And so one of the great things that we're doing now is revising our future science and tech plan. And so Cathy Foley, when she was at CSIRO, put forward CSIRO's first decadal plan. It mapped out the science that was coming, the science that if we didn't keep an eye on, we would miss out on. Opportunities like quantum and continuing opportunities like AI, that really we need to be at the forefront of. We need to be planning the right PhD numbers for. And under the nation's guidance, we now have 2,500 quantum PhD graduates. And so we are ready for that revolution as it expands. So at CSIRO, we need to make sure that we, as the nation's science agency, are ready for the science that's coming to solve the challenges that we know are coming. We can't predict the future, but we do know it's going to continue to be challenging, and we do know we need to continue to be at the forefront of it. So we're seeking to articulate the key ideas in science advancements that are coming. Where are we going to get collision points between science areas? What are the emerging science areas that are coming? But then also to counter that with what are the environments in which innovation thrive? How do we need to be set up as an organisation? What cultures do we need to have in place? What's the capability profile? And how do we put people to work on great ideas? So we've identified 12 ideas, and because we're still in the midst of this, I'm not going to give you a big long list of all the technologies. Many of them are represented in the capability papers, which gives us really good confidence. And many others are also reflected in the national science priorities, which have been released in the draft form. But I do want to talk about two. We talked about AI a little bit earlier, and so I won't labour on this one. It's not new, but the AI that I delivered in 2006 around search engines and optimization and personalisation and tailoring, I was that initial people who bought this other thing, the foundations of Netflix, which now many of you hate. But at the time it was exciting and it was joyous, and we were making small changes to how people operated online and tailoring that experience. It's very different now. The AI is done differently, but where it's applied is also done differently. AI will be part of every part of our day by 2040. It will be used by non-experts on the regular. It will not just be sitting in particular tools and services. And to the points that were made earlier, we need a workforce that embrace that know how to use it and trust and are confident in it. We need more different types of PhD in AI, which will look at responsibility around Syntel, around that collaborative intelligence piece of how humans and AI should come together for the benefit of others. And so that transition between the two. So we know the traditional engineering systems, manufacturing and computing will all be impacted by AI, and we know that's a strong agenda for the government. So we need to be out there creating the AI that's going to deliver that, and also that we'll look at kind of engineering biology, and that AI will have huge impact in that area. So one thing that's for sure about AI is we don't actually know what it's going to do. We know it's going to be powerful, but beyond that kind of 2040 horizon, it's impossible to predict where it's off to. But we know it won't be the same, and we need to keep pace with that, and we do need the graduates coming through, but we also need community uptake and involvement within the AI field. The other example that I want to talk about is actually one where we want to step back in time in order to look to the future. You can tell from my accent that I wasn't born here in Australia. I am one of the lucky ones who came in with a great attraction package to bring my skills to work and to bear here. And I'm Australian from now on, as I see it. But as a scientist, I've never had a greater privilege than to work with our Indigenous scientists to deliver impact around the projects that we do at CSIRO. And so they are Australia's first scientists, and they are the world's first scientists. And so we've got a very strong proposal of work that's been operating since 2019 to really focus CSIRO's Indigenous science engagement programs. So we're investing in the science as a future capability in recognition of all that the Indigenous science areas bring for us as CSIRO and for the nation. So it includes scientific endeavours that involve Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, communities and organisations, and the science that is important to them. We've recently launched our Indigenous graduate programme, and it was beautiful. Actually, Auntie came to me before she did her welcome this morning to say that her grandson had recently interviewed just yesterday for CSIRO's Indigenous Science Engagement Programme. It's the first programme that CSIRO has run, which is about bringing Indigenous STEM graduates into research careers. And so historically, we've looked at cadetships and other more trade-based roles. These are roles which are really exposing Indigenous graduates to a research organisation, to research in how science runs, and then supporting them to go on to do masters and PhD programmes, to join the workforce that we know we need in order to do Indigenous-led and Indigenous-informed science. We must do this with Indigenous leadership rather than to Indigenous leaders. And so it is shifting our science push approach from a model that's incorporating Indigenous to being one that's led by Indigenous people, Indigenous cultures and Indigenous values. We know that by delivering the programme, we'll probably end up with three core delivery pieces. Science solutions that are prioritised by Indigenous science, by Indigenous Australians, pathways that embrace Indigenous leadership to deliver our science, and talent that's inspired and equipped to make a difference for the nation. We also know that through this programme, we will take the knowledge, the being and the doing from our Indigenous leaders and spread that across all of the CSIRO culture and all of the people that work there, and then ongoing to all of the people who leave our organisation and go on to do science elsewhere. And so AI and Indigenous science are just two of the future capabilities that CSIRO believes we will need to fulfil our duties as the National Science Agency. Many others, as I said, are discussed in the capability papers. So if I can leave you with an impression today, it's not that we all need to memorise a list of technologies that are coming our way, but that we need to be open to the opportunities that have come before that we may need to revisit, and opportunities that sit in our future. The world is evolving, and it is evolving at speed, and we really must keep our eye on a pulse to make sure that we don't miss opportunities, and quantum probably being the biggest one that we sit with at the moment. A century ago, CSIRO was formed to solve our greatest problems, and we still continue to strive to do that through our collaborative networks and by bringing and making sure that we have a strong, robust capability of excellent scientists that we can deploy with partners and to the nation. We invest in our capability year on year. We restock our science shelves to make sure that we have the best and the brightest, that we are evolving those that we have within our workforce to the latest and greatest in new talents, and that we are bringing in great young scientists to come and bolster what we do. It's a bold scientist who claims to know the future. And we recently had a great discussion with Christian Basin from the Design Centre in Denmark. And he said, you can't predict the future, but what you can predict is where it happens and the environment in which it happens. If you have closed doors, limited mindsets, and a culture which does not support innovation, then none of what you are predicting will be relevant to your organisation. So you must collaborate, you must be open, and you must drive a culture of innovation, openness and continuous learning. And so I believe that CSIRO is capable of that, and I believe that Australia is capable of that, and I will leave that there.